Hey, good morning, Choice Residential. Hope your day's off to a great start. Today, I want to talk about new construction and specifically how to prepare your buyer for the new construction process. Just some things for them to think about, some topics for you to discuss early on in the process so that they don't get disappointed or have their expectations go awry during this process. So, we already know that new construction is in high demand right now, just like everything else, and it's really challenging to get under contract on new construction. But what that means is buyers, of course, are really stressed out right now. And so they feel like they are giving everything, and therefore they may have unrealistic expectations once they actually finally get under contract with a builder. So here are a couple things for you to think about. Number one, make sure they're prepared that there are likely going to be some delays. This could be for a number of reasons. Even in a more typical real estate market, there can be delays with new construction, whether that's because of permitting or just weather delays or other delays with construction. But now you have logistics of building materials, you have the municipalities' inspection departments backed up. So there could be any number of reasons why there are delays, not just after the home is erected, but before they even break ground. So we've seen cases where it's been almost a year from when a buyer signs their new construction contract to when the builder finally breaks ground on the home. So make sure they have that understanding and have realistic expectations and a backup plan for what their housing situation looks like until that new house is complete. Also, make sure that you are reviewing these new construction contracts carefully. I realize they may be 60 pages long or more, but you have to review them carefully and you have to make sure that the buyer is reviewing them carefully. If you have questions, make sure that you're asking those of the on-site agent. And if they are more complicated scenarios, feel free to bring me into the loop, but you always need to advise the buyer to consult an attorney if there's something more complicated in the contract that they don't understand. What we've seen lately are provisions in the contract that allow the builder to increase the price later if the builder's cost goes up. That could be just the cost of construction. That could be the cost of selected finishes, appliances, things of that nature. So make sure you're aware of those provisions in the contract. Another great tip an explanation to give your buyer is that with a new home, there is no such thing as a straight line or a 90-degree angle. And that's in every home, by the way. But sometimes you'll see buyers out there with a level or a 90-degree angle, putting them in a corner of a wall. And certain types of buyers, certain types of personalities could get really upset because a line isn't a perfect 180 degrees or a corner of a room isn't a perfect 90 degrees, right? You want to make sure they understand that this is sticks and bricks we're talking about. There's no such thing as perfect. And by the way, that applies to paint jobs as well. We've all been through those blue tape walkthroughs, new home orientation walkthroughs, where we're marking the imperfections in paint. And you basically have the whole wall full of blue tape because that buyer has an expectation that there's going to be a perfect paint job. No such thing. A good rule of thumb is if you're standing 6 feet away from the wall and you can't see the imperfection, it's not an imperfection that needs to be remedied, because every time you come back to the house, you could find more of those, if you're just inches away from the walls looking at them. So go ahead and prepare them for that part of the process as well. One thing that's also a great thing to remind a buyer so that they don't have buyer's remorse later is that even on closing day, the first day they move into the house, they're going to get in there and realize, oh, well, if I was to do this again, there's something that I would do differently. I would have picked a different finish. I would have moved this room. I would have done whatever, had a different exterior finish. The point is that there's always going to be something that could be changed. It goes back to the notion that there's no such thing as a perfect house. Building a house in and of itself, the process is not a straight line. There are bumps along the way, frustration, some stress that comes along with it. That's just the nature of building a home. So go ahead and prepare them for that. By the way, we have a great tool in our intranet, which is the 21 things you need to know about building a new home or about new construction. It's great for you, not just to remind yourself of some of the things that you may want to talk to the buyer about, but it's a great document to give them. I used it as an agent. That's when I created it, and I have edited it for you all to use at Choice Residential. So hopefully that comes in helpful for you. One last thing to make sure that you discuss with your buyers buying new construction, and that is that the lot itself. So when they're looking at the lot, maybe there's trees on it. It's a completely raw lot. It has not been graded yet. they need to understand that when that lot gets graded, it may not look like it does right now. It may be perfectly flat right now, but once it gets graded and a house is going to be put on it, now there may be a slope. And so the driveway is actually going to be on a slope. Discuss that with the on-site agent to get as much of an understanding as you can as to what they're going to do with the lot. But I promise you, the builders do not make undesirable lots because they want to. They are required for water runoff purposes, stormwater purposes, to have the lots be shaped a certain way. They cannot always tell you exactly what that's going to be before they get out there, do it, and have the city coming out to inspect it. So buyers need to be prepared that that lot may look differently. Sometimes it looks a lot different. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gets better. Sometimes it gets worse. Just have that discussion up front. You don't have a crystal ball, but make sure that the discussion has been had to try to prevent hurt feelings later. If you have other tips and tricks and experiences with new construction that you think would be helpful for your fellow agents, please put them in the remarks below. And if you need anything, you can always reach out to me. Take care.